A woman made a deal with a rich man to pay off his debt. If she became pregnant with the rich man's child within 3 days, she would get a reward of £500. But according to the agreement, they must keep the secret, and the woman must leave after giving birth to the child, and she must have nothing to do with the rich. Sophie came to bed and took off her clothes. They looked very shy on the first night. Sophie kept the last two dresses with her, and Charlie was a true gentleman who showed good manners and respect towards Sophie. The next day, they had a brief conversation in the restaurant, and for a moment Sophie was attracted by Charlie's gentlemanly behaviour. At night, Sophie still didn't take off her clothes, but they were obviously more comfortable than the previous night. Sophie also felt the beauty that came from close contact, but when she thought that the man next to her was about to leave, she could only shed tears and express her insincere helplessness. Unconsciously, the fire of love in each other's hearts gradually grew. But 3 days later, Charlie still left as promised and finally gave birth to a baby girl. But before she could see her daughter, a servant took her away. In the next 7 years, Sophie has been thinking deeply about her daughter. She will write blessings in her daughter's picture book every birthday. At the same time, what she will never forget is the ambiguous love between her and Charlie. So Sophie made a decision and started looking around as a tutor. By this day, Sophie finally knew where her daughter was. She also learned that Charlie was the son of a duke and had deep feelings for his wife. The next day, his daughter stood at the fence waiting for her father to come back. As soon as Charlie got off the carriage, he skillfully carried her on his shoulders. Seeing this, Sophie was very happy. But she also knew very well that it was because of Charlie's kindness that her daughter developed a strong-willed and unruly character. When Sophie slowly approached him, Charlie's expression immediately became extremely shocked. He was afraid that Sophie's appearance would expose the matter. Even though Sophie pleaded and promised, Charlie strongly disagreed with her staying here. He ordered the maid to fire Sophie immediately, but the maid said that according to the contract, even if she had to fire Sophie, she would have to wait for at least a month's probation period. Sophie locks her in the room and prevents her from going out. No matter how much she screams, it will be of no use. Charlie became angry when he heard this. He would never allow the slightest injustice to happen to his daughter, but Sophie would never give in on this matter. Every night when her daughter slept, Sophie quietly came to her room and brought her a bowl of water. She used the most drastic method to change her daughter, but she kept deep maternal love in her heart. Unexpectedly, her daughter became even more angry during class the next day. This made Sophie completely angry, and she picked up the paint on the table and threw it directly at her daughter's face, and then poured a cup on her own face. In this way, Sophie successfully completed her daughter's protection with love and tolerance. She gradually understood the tutor's good intentions and began to study with peace of mind. That day, Charlie was swimming in the lake, while Sophie stood far away and watched secretly. He unconsciously raised his hand to touch her neck. In the evening, Charlie suddenly met in front of the fireplace and said that this time has passed and it will never come back. Their hearts were beating faster and their breathing became even faster near the warm fire. This night, they were completely free from the shackles of morality, and in the days that followed, their feelings became increasingly hot, but they didn't know how to face it. Until one day, a group of uninvited guests came to the manor. Charlie went bankrupt due to a business crisis and now has to sell everything. This manor was originally his and his wife's marriage home, but in the 10 years since his wife became paralyzed, it has become like a prison cell for everyone. Charlie really loved his wife very much and felt that as long as he was with his wife, she would be happy. But he never dared to think about whether his wife would continue to live like this. The next day, the doctor announced that his wife had died, and everyone accepted it calmly. Even his wife's sister had no complaints. In the end, Charlie held a grand funeral for his wife. Later, his daughter quietly came to Sophie's room and asked her mother why she left it. "It's my regret." Sophie's eyes immediately filled with tears. She held her daughter tightly in her arms, while her daughter was crying and calling her mother over and over again, as if she wanted to make up for all the time she had not called her mother in the past 7 years. This love was full of sin from beginning to end, but on second thought, if it was in real life, who could dare to blame them? After so many years of coldness and silence, the two finally became a little light in each other's lives.